at our core is really about making an impact and working well with others to solve these big issues: climate change, environmental degradation, protecting the environment, infectious disease spread, protecting humans from that, etc. So the idea was that we needed to make it low cost, very open, and share very well with others. Here's what we've got. Actually, Aaron, is there a laser pointer? Otherwise, I'll keep gesturing with my hands. Here's what we've got. Basically, as I mentioned, we realized that we would need to have in-situ sensors, and there are a number of them out there. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel, but we realized that many of them that were commercially available were difficult to use. What we wanted to do was to make a device that was extremely easy to use, and you could plug pretty much any kind of sensor into the bottom of it. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But it would more or less automatically configure itself, transmit that data from anywhere in the world through a distributed wireless mesh network. And it could also control devices in the field. This is a picture of our first device, and we wanted to make it so easy that it, you'll notice, doesn't have any buttons on it. It doesn't even have an on-off switch, because why would you ever want to turn it off? Our new device, as you'll see, has 4 buttons on the front, because we've also realized over many, many iterations that people like to play with buttons. It's true. They want to see what's going on in the field before they leave. But the idea is that these sensors are deployed wherever you care about in the world, and they're transmitting data back from weather stations, water quality sensors, any kind of sensor that you may have. And it's going back to the central server that's actually a grid-based computing cluster of machines that's beginning to be even cloud-based. And this data stream, along with literally hundreds of thousands of other data streams, are coming into this server live. The idea is that we can go out there and have the server find all of those other pieces of data that I mentioned that's on that researcher's computer or that researcher's computer, and bring it together and put it at your fingertips. So once you do that and you bring in all of these external data sources along with your own in-situ sensor data, then you have a way of integrating all of that information together, doing analysis and modeling, and that's the stage that we're at now. The final piece is if you just got the data and integrated it together and analyzed it, it wouldn't do you any good. You need to get it into people's hands in a very easy to understand way with an intuitive interface and empower collaboration, empower groups of impassioned individuals to make an impact through all of this. And it has to be secure. As I mentioned, we're big fans of openness. So open platform for everything that we do. Open architecture, open source in the case of our viewer. The idea is to have all of us, again, collaborate together and work together easily. So let me go into some of the technologies. And I'll go through this in a little bit more detail and then some of the deployments. But then I want to be sure to leave time for questions because I think that this touches on a lot of the research that's going on here. So again, the idea is that we make a remotely deployable, rugged, smart sensor device. We read a lot of papers, being good academics, when we started Intelesense. We read about a lot of the research that went on here, SENS, all the crossbow work, all kinds of different work. And what we realized is that there were a lot of great ideas out there. But then when we started to deploy these in the real world, we realized that there are a lot of practical considerations that you run into that aren't reflected in some of the designs. When you actually try to deploy some of these research quality devices in real rugged environments, it wasn't working very well. So what we wanted to do was to step back, take the good ideas, and build something that was real and practical, and learn from that by deploying it in the field in some really harsh conditions, and then iterating that design rapidly. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. So the idea is that this IntelliCell device allows you to plug pretty much any kind of sensor into the bottom of it. Water quality, air quality, weather sensors, soil moisture, even video, imagery sensors, biosensors, etc. Part of what I realized is, with my DoD hat on, I manage this portfolio of biosensors, biosurveillance projects, and what I realized is we're spending billions of dollars at EPA, DoD, DHS, etc. on new sensor technologies. 90% of them are stuck in the lab because it takes another order of magnitude of time, money, and effort to get it out of the lab and into the field, and probably another order of magnitude of time, money, and effort to get it cost-effective in the field. If we can take those advanced biosensors and get them in the field earlier, able to make an impact by making it easy to do so, that would be a big benefit. So we have a number of different interfaces on the bottom of the device: serial, analog 4 to 20 milliamp, pretty much anything that you could want, you can plug into this device. It has a small processor built into it, and also the ability to control devices. one thing you realize is that some sensors you need to be able to power up and control yourself. So even remotely, we're able to take control of those devices, turn them on, turn them off, et cetera. The wireless technology. With the radios that we're using right now, I'll tell you, we started off using VHF-based radios because that's what you think would work best. But what we've actually found is that our 900 megahertz band frequency hopping spread spectrum radios outperform VHF radios at 1/5 the power. That's something that we had tested in the field, and it turns out it's better to be hopping around. Also, those devices are about 1/4 of the price, I believe. So our devices transmit 14 to 40 miles, depending on if we're using directional antennas. So really, powerful transmitters on it, and certainly doing traditional deployments are a piece of cake. Because it forms, as you'll see in a moment, a distributed wireless mesh network, the sensor network can really cover hundreds of miles, and I'll show you some examples of that. Right now, this week, we're headed up to put the beginning infrastructure in a 200 square kilometer area up in Northern California. So this will form basically the backbone. It will be done hopefully by the end of the month. Every device has a GPS built into it, which provides localization, global time when available, and also it means that the sensors can be mobile. So we can put them on UAVs, we can put them on vehicles, underwater vehicles, surface vehicles, UAVs, or a stream researcher can walk up a stream and take readings as well. So these devices are deployed out there in remote areas, transmit their data node to node to node over tens of kilometers, gets it back to one station, has some means of connectivity to the outside world. Either Ethernet port, which will get you local internet, cellular, or satellite, if you need to. So at least one station has some way of getting it out. And so that means really this network can be deployable anywhere. We made it, as I mentioned, very easy to use, so it automatically detects sensors when appropriate, and it self-configures the network every time it transmits. That's something else that we realized in these test beds. I'll just jump ahead a little bit. Our main test bed is on the island of Kauai. It pretty much spans the entire island. It's literally the wettest place on Earth. 430 inches of rain a year, 2,000 foot tall, very sheer mountains, iron-rich soil, really difficult place to do RF transmission. We figured if we could get it working there, then downtown Kansas or something is going to be a piece of cake. But one of the things that we realized in doing that and deploying there is, right now you think from this location you can hit that ridge up there and you can transmit to it. But tomorrow that may not be the case. Atmospheric effects, interference, who knows what. But basically, you can't have static routing. You need to have dynamic routing going on. So every time our station goes to do a data collection, it reestablishes the routing network automatically. We kept getting asked about secure transmission, so we basically just nailed it so we wouldn't get asked anymore. So the system is completely authenticated and encrypted, 256-bit AES, so it's exportable. It's more secure than bank-to-bank financial transactions. Future-proof. I mentioned that everybody at Intelesense pretty much worked at Stanford and NASA before. The people that did the hardware actually were the people that worked on those small free-flying satellites. So really, the IntelliCell is essentially a earthbound satellite. And we have different features built into it, like being able to remotely upgrade the firmware and configure it while in the field. What that means is, for my laptop right now, being right here on the internet, I can reconfigure a machine that's deployed in a rural village in Vietnam from here, or upgrade its firmware, fix bugs, whatever, reconfigure it. The devices transmit on regular schedule. Usually people like it about once an hour, but it's up to you. On event, which means that it can be watching a sensor, and when it detects something unusual, wake up the network and transmit immediately. Or on demand. The central server, the central computer, can initiate a wake up of the network anywhere in the world and gain control of what's going on. The devices are all self-powered, so we tend to use solar panels where appropriate. That covers most of the deployment locations. We've also done wind and water turbine for if we're doing underground deployments, which are pretty rare. So what sort of sensors do we support? Here are some of them. So water quality, I won't read the slide to you, but basically water quality, air quality, the parameters you see there, lots of weather stations, and we have some more of those now. It's kind of an old slide. Soil moisture, et cetera, et cetera. Imagery. So we also capture images from remote locations and transmit that. And one of our guys, Matt Rutzhauser, is working on biotelemetry collars. So we're able to transmit data from animals walking around. I'll show you some of that in a few. And RFID motes, things like that. People are sensors too. So we're able to get data from PDAs and PCs in the field. You can be walking around in a remote area in a rainforest in Hawaii with your PDA and transmit through the network to get your data out and get your field report. Here's some pictures of some of the stations. So water sensor stations. This is up in back of Limahuli Valley in Hawaii. Weather stations, imagery sensors. Up here, this is a good example of what it looks like in our test bed. This up here is Mount Waialeale. It's actually higher up here. This is about 1,800 feet, 2,000 feet. The ridge at the top is about maybe 2 meters, about 6 feet across. And when we go to deploy stations there, we're kind of helicoptering in. It hovers unstably, and you grab everything out and you deploy, and then hopefully it comes back later in the day and picks you up. This location right here, Namalakama, is only clear maybe 3 to 6 days a year, but we have a station there transmitting. This is some of our other stations a little bit north of there. This is Hanalei Bay, for those of you that have been there. And as I mentioned, the stations can be mobile as well. So the stream researcher can walk upstream, take readings, and since it's got a GPS in it, it knows when and where all the readings were taken. As I mentioned, the devices automatically form a distributed wireless mesh network, so the data hops node to node to node, and it reconfigures it every time. So if any node were to go out, it will just reconfigure and get around it. Goes to one node that has some way of getting to the outside world. Self-organizing, self-repairing, no configuration necessary, no routing table configuration at all. And as our military friends like to see, redundantly indestructible. Here are 10 things you can do, some examples of things people do with our system. So flood warning, monitoring weather, tracking animals, as I mentioned, tracking inventory, being able to put one of our devices on the top of a vehicle lumbering across Africa and knowing all of the inventory that's on that truck. And as it's driving by a small village, any of the other devices that happen to be in the area, it will pick up their data as it's driving by and then deposit it as it continues on. So here are some examples of things that people do. And because it didn't fit on one slide, here's 10 more things you can do that other people are using it for as well, including even medical data through the network. But here's the big picture. The implication is this. We needed to reliably and securely get data from people and sensors anywhere in the world in real time with no required infrastructure. No power required, no existing telecom, anything like that. So really what we're talking about is a worldwide wireless distributed mesh network using the internet as a backbone. The way our system actually views it is it really is a worldwide mesh network and really doesn't make a distinction about how it's communicating. So those devices are deployed worldwide or in remote areas getting data back. But here's where I think Intelesense is really, really what we do. The idea is that there are lots of sensor networks out there. You can go to NOAA's site and look at all the ocean buoys that they have worldwide. You could go to nasa.gov, look at the latest satellite image that was just downloaded. You can go to other researchers' pages, look at their buoys or their sensors or their data. And in an afternoon, you could look at maybe, if you were fast, about 20 different places, pull that data down into an Excel spreadsheet, and painfully put it together. What we're doing is automating that. So we have these software agents running on our rack of servers that are going out and automatically finding that web page and automatically downloading that data and putting it into the system. They're automatically going out to NASA's site. Hopefully they're not watching on YouTube. And download the latest satellite imagery by FTP. Connecting into other people's databases of animal tracking information, for example, and downloading that. So it's basically pulling it all down into the system, securely authenticated, but then making it easy for people to just click through and have access to it. So again, these agents fire at regular intervals. They go out and they grab satellite imagery, internet accessible data, etc. This makes it really easy also to integrate with existing sensor systems. If you've already deployed a network of sensors and you're happy with it, great. I'll bet they come back to some machine that's on the internet. And it'll be really easy in about an hour to write a little agent that goes off, grabs that data, and puts it into the system. That's fine. You know, you don't have to be using our sensors for it if you already have something that's great. But the idea was to make it easy to integrate existing data and to pull all kinds of data together in one place so you get a good picture of what's actually going on. Here's something else that's really subtle but important. After you work with sensors for a while, you realize that every sensor has its own drift curve, its own instabilities, its own quirks. and its own error bars. And those error bars change over time. Then you look at another sensor that cross-correlates, and it has its own quirks. And people are sensors too, as I mentioned, and they have their own quirks and confidence values as well. But if you start to look across different kinds of sensors, and you're looking intermodal, multimodal, across a bunch of different sensing modalities, and you're starting to see a trend emerge, then it might be something that you should pay attention to. So that's part of the idea, is that individual data sources aren't specific, they're not necessarily reliable, but when you start to combine them all together, then what you've got is you're getting rid of the noise and you're increasing the signal. And that's where we're trying to get to. Back, almost a couple years ago now, we had about 130, 135 different data sources we were tapping, largely live. So we had our own sensor network that you see up here, sending the data that you see. We had surface imagery, Landsat, and maps from USGS. Worldwide, 250-meter satellite imagery every day, high-res Landsat, some ICONOS data, other data from NOAA, CO2 sensor networks and other networks from them, real-time cloud cover, weather data from every airport and city in the world, ocean buoys from NOAA, as I mentioned, ships, every aircraft inbound and outbound to the United States, human information, demographics, and lots of stuff related to infectious disease spreads, media reports, et cetera. All the things that you see up here. So about 100, 135 different data sources that were coming in for some of the projects we were doing. Well, I mentioned those agents can go out there and grab data down. So then what we did was we turned them loose. We basically turned them loose as a crawler on NOAA.gov or NASA.gov, et cetera, and got them to actually find all the ArcGIS data that's on the site, all the KML, KMZ data that's on the site, other sensor data, et cetera. So now we're at over 315,000 layers of data, and we stopped it at that point. Because if you look at Google Earth or Virtual Earth or what we're built on, what IntelliView is built on, which is NASA Whirlwind, none of them were really ever designed to handle more than about 1,000 layers. When you get up into the hundreds of thousands of layers, things change a little bit. So we needed to stop our agents from finding more data until we took care of that. And we've done that now. So we're about to turn the agents back on and increase this number more. But it's a massive amount of data available in one place. Just for example, there are about 4 million KML files in existence in the world, about 1 million KMZ files, lots of ArcGIS data out there. So rapidly, I think this number is going to increase. We've made it easy for users to upload their own data so that if you're a field researcher out there doing stream research, we make it very easy for you to upload and share your data with your colleagues, with your peers, in ArcGIS format or KML, KMZ, imagery, et cetera. And we made it very secure. So you get to, the way I view us is that we're the bank. It's your money. So it's your data. You get to define who gets to see it. Either just yourself or you and your group of friends that basically construct a portal, which I'll talk about in a moment, or everyone. We encourage people to try to share validated data with everyone. That way we all can win. That way, if you share your weather data and she's got species data, then you all can share and start to understand what's going on across all of them. So you own your data, but we've made it very easy for people to upload and share it. And as I mentioned, ability to tap Google Earth, KML, KMZ files. For those of you that know what a WMS server is, we have every known WMS server in the world in the system right now, and we're tapping that data live as well. And the idea is to make it updatable, secure, high performance, and something you can rely on. So make it very easy to add new data without having to have all that infrastructure or have your own server and create your own WMS server. But the big picture is really to put all the world's data at your fingertips. One concept that we actually learned, believe it or not, from Hawaiian culture, which is a very place-based kind of culture, is to know everything that happened in this place through all time and through all experience. So that's what we actually build into our system. So in IntelliView, in the app that you're about to see, you can zoom down pretty much anywhere in the world and say, show me all data that overlaps with where I'm looking right now. That's where we want to get to, is to be able to bring together all of the world's data in one place so you can look at what else does anybody else know about this place. So, as I said, things got a little bit odd when we got above 100,000 layers. And this is what we really found, is having all the world's data, those 300,000 layers is impressive, but it's only one part of the need. you probably don't care, if you're a stream researcher here, you probably don't care about the HIV infection rates in Central Africa. But I have some friends at USAID that really care about that, and they don't care about your fish counts over here. What you really need to do is to provide only the data and exactly what people need to address what they want to do. So you really need to provide a domain-specific way that allows people to see what they want and not what they don't, but also to enable and empower a distributed community of interest to collaborate. People that really care about a certain place and conservation of that place, or really care about infectious disease in Africa, really need to be empowered with just that information. So we created these things called portals, which are domain-specific community of interest online collaboration tools where people can come together with similar interests. Has the visualizer built in, as you'll see, easy user data upload, and a lot of collaboration tools, forums and blogs and video conferencing even, and allow them to customize it however they want, administer it however they want. But the big picture is to empower groups of impassioned people to collaborate and do big things. So here are some examples of that. The Hawaii Biodiversity mapping project. We do a lot of work with the DoD. I'll talk very briefly about some of it later. And they're understandably concerned about security. This group is actually much more concerned than anybody that we've ever dealt with about security of data. And that's because for them, we're actually housing some of their data, which is the most rare and endangered plant species that exist in the Hawaiian Islands, where there are like 4 plants left. So they're very, very cautious about who has access to that data. And so that's one of the portals. Department of Land and Natural Resources Division of Fish and Wildlife also has a visualizer and a portal like this where they have a number of in-situ sensors and telecells deployed, and then layers they've uploaded, and it actually looks a lot different now. They're using it on a daily basis with a bunch of community partners and other organizations that they work with. We have even elementary school and high school students with their own portals where they're doing multi-year, multi-class projects looking at a watershed, putting in-situ sensors out there and also doing field studies and comparing what they see this year with what the class saw last year. Working with a company called Shoreland for travel medicine that I really won't go into. We do a lot of work in biosurveillance. So here, again, you can see that we're bringing in health services alerts and integrating a ton of data. That's one area that it's really important. And I mentioned USAID earlier. We had started working with them a while back. For the computer geeks like me in the crowd, I'll just go through things really quickly. We're hosting our stuff at a place called Hurricane Electric, which you may or may not know about, but it's a top 10 internet system in the world. It's a machine room on steroids. When I started my career at Hewlett-Packard, we had big machine rooms for testing. And then I went to NASA Ames, which is their main computational center. And we had really, really big supercomputer machine rooms. When I go to this place, imagine the biggest machine room that I saw at NASA Ames, and then imagine a hallway of machine rooms that big. And that's one hallway of about 6 hallways. It's just massive, way over the top, and much more capabilities than a startup like us would be able to provide instead. So that's where we house our stuff. But what we provide is basically these multiple redundant load balance cluster of servers. Right now, actually, we've just put another server online because we filled up this one. So we now have 30 terabytes of capacity, 15 terabytes are full, and we're about to get a bunch more data. Somebody's going to give us 30 terabytes again pretty soon of some real high-res imagery. This is kind of the way it works. Some, again, network load balance set of servers, imaging server, processing server for analysis, and then secure internal switch with a really redundant kind of architecture that we made in collaboration with a guy from Intel. I can go into that more afterwards if people are interested. But here's the big picture to leave you with, is the idea is that we can integrate data from many sources, establish what's normal and what's not by looking across it, by integrating data from different sources. By, for example, being able to have an agent that analyzes data like this, where it takes, let's say, the water quality data from a weather station in a location, and then also looks at the satellite image and looks at the value of that pixel that overlaps with it to look at the cloud cover, and then looks at the field report of the person, and if those all are within a certain range, generates an alert that pops up on your cell phone that, hey, wow, it's raining, there's a flood happening, stuff like that. Multimodal data integration and fusion allows you then to do multimodal analysis. So we establish baselines, what's normal, what's not, generate alerts, as I just mentioned, and provide this information anywhere in the world. The way that we do that is this thing called IntelliView, which, as I said, is built on top of NASA Whirlwind, but we've really taken it, I think, probably an order of magnitude beyond what what they were able to do within NASA. And lets you zoom in anywhere in the world, view all kinds of different data as you see, integrate data, and then it's also very cross-platform. So it's Java over OpenGL. So you can view, interact, and explore this data from anywhere in the world, including in the field, which is important to us, and understand what's happening. I'll go through some real brief example deployments right now, just to give you a flavor of it. As I mentioned, we're all across the Hawaiian Islands, as you see in the lower right here, with imagery sensors and water quality, et cetera. Integrating human information as well, land use patterns, vegetation. So this is all some environmental research we've been doing for quite a while. Down at the south shore of the island as well, and then on Maui. The reason why I like this picture is it's subtle to people, but they don't realize they're seeing probably about 12 different types of data overlaid on the map at once. Our stations here, the actual real cloud cover integrated with Landsat imagery, integrated with a digital elevation model from another source, et cetera, et cetera. All kinds of data in one place, and it makes it very intuitive for you to interact with it. This is our main test bed, again, north shore of the island of Kauai, and now with a project with the Nature Conservancy, we're going to be deploying a lot more sensors back in here for some conservation work. This is maybe 50 kilometers across, maybe a little bit more. Hanalei Bay is over here. Weather stations, water quality stations, and even a couple of goats that had GPS tracking collars on them, whose data are also going into the system. Bounces its data off of this repeater, which bounces off this node at this site, which bounces off this one, which actually makes it down to the house here where it happens to have an internet connection and has its own cluster of sensors here. Imagery sensors also deployed. So again, a network spanning quite a distance in a very remote, rugged sort of area. We're doing a bunch of other stuff in Hawaii as well, Fish and Wildlife Service and hydrology, and even doing caves, which I think I go into. So I mentioned 5th grade students are able to set up the stations and do their field reports. We're actually doing deployments deep in caves. This is a cave that hasn't had human habitation for hundreds of years from native Hawaiians and stuff. And we're even deploying sensors deep in the cave and transmitting the data out. It's kind of a large sinkhole. And actually, it turns out that the cave, the walls of the cave act as a waveguide, so it actually does transmit reasonably well. Here's some other of our projects that we're involved with. So there's a Center for Island, Maritime, and Extreme Environment Security. It's a Homeland Security-funded center for basically maritime situational awareness. This is also, we have a number of affiliate partners, and one of them is Pat Manti at UC Santa Cruz. And the idea is to integrate a whole bunch of data together, do research on some advanced sensing technologies for satellite-based tracking, HF radar, and acoustic monitoring for ships to find out where ships are, where they're going, and are they doing what we think they should be doing. Doing projects with the Army for monitoring invasive animal traps and some other projects. This one is in Thailand, and it's basically tracking the spread of dengue fever from a nature preserve about, I think, an hour and a half north of Bangkok down into the city by integrating together weather stations and mosquito traps. Besides our device, which again transmits quite a ways, 10 to 40 miles, we also have little mote devices which transmit supposedly about a mile, but up at Blue Oak with Mike Hamilton's help, we got over 2 kilometers, and we still had 38% signal quality to go. So the idea is that we've learned is sometimes in a particular area, you want to cluster a whole bunch of little sensors around. You want a bunch of soil moisture sensors, temperature, relative humidity, simple stuff. And you want a high-density, low-cost network clustered in this area. But then that area happens to be 20 miles out from any other infrastructure. So the idea is to have those motes transmit up to one device that then can send it long haul. So that's what we've done there, and that's what we've been deploying over the last few weeks as well. So some other examples where they're actually using it with pig traps, believe it or not. And I mentioned that we have an image sensor also, so they're using it for some security applications. This is a Thai project that I mentioned, going from Bangkok up to Chao Phraya. Vietnam, we linked together environmental sensors in their drinking water supply and weather stations with syndromic surveillance information. So we have the group there, the public health officials, typing into the system what everybody's coming in sick with into the clinic. And then we're looking at, well, the water quality did this, everyone showed up sick with that, and there's a correlation. And we've detected a number of events like that. So those are the stations that you see here in the drinking water system, and then transmitting tens of kilometers back to public health office, and then being transmitted out. So the idea is that we can pretty much zoom in there like we can zoom in anywhere else. This is about 3.5 hours outside of Hanoi in a really remote area. Africa also has a lot of great needs, and what we've been doing over there is trying to replace big paper-based medical record books like this with small PDAs. The problem is this clinic is really in the middle of nowhere. No reliable power, no telecom really. The population there is too poor to afford cell phones really. So the idea is that that PDA would transmit by Bluetooth to one of our devices that's up at the corner of the clinic on solar power, and then it hops node to node, clinic to clinic, till it gets to some district health office that has an uplink. So this is me in Addis Ababa deploying stations as well. We have some sensors doing real-time air quality monitoring at Balad Air Base in northern Iraq with U.S. forces there, where we've really shrank down the time for getting readings of what people were breathing there from about a month and a half to about an hour. But another very difficult, I think I have a slide, very difficult place to deploy. And that's part of what we're really looking at is if we can prototype it there and get it to work, then it'll work anywhere. This is one of those stations, so a little air sensor here, sniffer, plugged into our IntelliCell, put inside of a ruggedized case, solar panel on the outside. The way that they deploy it is, in this case, they press the come out of hibernation button, take the case, and more or less toss it on the roof. That's the deployment. So here are some of the locations that they're deployed, and there's the base station, and this is what it's like there at noon sometimes. So this is a sandstorm. And again, every time we deploy at a place like that, then we come back and we iterate the design. That's something I've learned through lots of working with surgeons on the other stuff that I do, as well as on this. You got to take your best guess sitting in a nice conference room and get it in the field, get it into the hands of the people that need it, and iterate that as quickly as you can, because you'll learn things you could never have predicted. We've done some work with DITRA too that I won't go into really. And we have some other active users up here that also I probably shouldn't go into too much. Where we're headed, as I said, we've been working now for years on developing an amazing capability. The plan is, okay, let's use it. Let's try to preserve the environment and culture, prevent infectious disease, et cetera. And that's why I'm here today, is because I'm looking for collaboration of people that could use a tool like this to then jumpstart what they want to do, and looking for all of us to work together. You have great sensor research, great all kinds of research here too. Working together, we can all accomplish a lot more, and I think that that the effect is multiplicative instead of additive. So the big picture is, again, we have the ability to get data from anywhere in the world, powerful data integration and visualization service that makes it easy for you to gain access to lots of data, stable, reliable platform you can count on. And that's the main website. But what I wanted to do is to jump over and show you the app real quick, if I have a sec. And if you go to our main website, which is www.intelesense, INTELESENSE.net, and sign up for an account, then I'll be happy to give you one. I mentioned we created these portals. So we actually have a working group portal where we have people like you that are working together with us to create portals. But the one I wanted to show you, whenever you get your main account, here, I'll tell you what, let me just gain access to it the way that you would. Go to Intelesense.net. This is our main page. After you get an account and you sign in, you can click on this Access IntelliView. We have our whizzy little graphics here. And then down here at the bottom, it's showing me all the different portals that I've got access to. There's one called the Welcome Portal. If I click on that, oops, sorry, my bad. It figures, that's a demo effect. Here, portals.intelesense.net. You'll see it will load up the Java over OpenGL app pretty quick. We're speeding that up right now as well. And this is the portal that everybody has access to. And what it's basically doing is just flying around the world, zooming in places that we have sensors. The little people that you see on there are people that are on the system right now. And I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and log in so I can show you some more data, which will make it a little bit more interesting. When you're signing in anonymously, it only shows you some small amount of the data because a lot of the data is locked up. But then once you log in, then you can see all kinds of stuff. If you click on the featured portals, you'll see a whole list of portals that many of which have anonymous access for it. And right now, bear with us, we're making this up as we go along, so we're trying to make them more and more custom for things. So now, besides the people, what you're also seeing are all of our stations that are deployed worldwide. So there's Addis Ababa, I think we're flying into. So yes, it looks a lot like Google Earth. I always hear that. But it's really kind of Google Earth on steroids. It's bringing in a lot more data than they've got because we've got all their data and a lot of other people too. We used to have a guy at Senegal. And then the University of Delaware is one of our collaborators, where I did my undergrad. And then, of course, out here, we've got a lot of stations. You see the sites up at Bohr, Blue Oak, back there. We have a lot of stations in our office. And then also some up at Northern California that you just saw as we're zooming out. This portal actually just has a script behind it that's zooming in, but you've got control of it whenever it's roaming around. You see our pig trap, caught a pig, up there for the Oahu Army Project. So the icons also denote the information. What is over on the side here, though, is really the layer manager. So if you open that up, there's a lot of data here. Again, over 300,000 layers. So I can look at USGS, latest earthquakes tapped from their system, nuclear facilities, all kinds of stuff. I say your network's a little bit slow. But lots and lots and lots of data. Are we enjoying another demo effect? Figures. I think it'll just take a second because there were some big earthquakes that just happened, so there's probably a lot of little aftershocks. Let me restart it. There we go. Yeah, just reload. So anyway, I'll show you down the layer manager. What I want to show you is just where there's some really cool data that other people have uploaded. All those WMS servers. In fact, what I should do, let me show you some of the other portals. Let me take you to one. Let me just use this one. This is one I've been playing with recently. This is one for the collaboration up north. So under this online WMS layers, right here, these are all the WMS servers in the world. So also organized by keyword. So we can look up, there are 20 WMS servers out there having to do with Canada that we can bring up all of their data. Cartography, cryosphere, et cetera. Basically what we're doing is just pulling the keywords from the WMS servers advertising. We've got tons of other data here. Imagery of every sort you can imagine. This is kind of cool though. This is user uploaded layers. This is what people like you upload onto the system, and it's always kind of interesting to see. So you've got coyotes being tracked. I know in California, this is some of Matt's work with his friends. EPA, renewable energy sites. FBO plane trackers, all aircraft inbound and outbound to the United States. Public health data, Stonehenge, nuclear facilities, et cetera. So tons and tons of data. Something that you might like, though, is the ability to actually search through that and find what you want, which is down here. Or if you don't give it anything, then it'll search what's available in that area. So there's lots of data out there. And the plan is to put it at your fingertips. So with that, I think I should ask for any questions, and then maybe I can show some examples as people ask some questions. Good? Good. Thanks. I put everyone to sleep.
A very interesting talk, very exciting talk. So power is obviously a critical requirement, especially in the remote areas. Yep. And so you show solar panels and self-powering. Mm-hmm. Is there some combination with energy storage device so you can extend the hours of operation and also across more different weather patterns?
Yeah, so I mentioned one of our stations, I think I mentioned, in a location that's cloudy almost all the time. power is always a concern. One of the things that I'd love to talk about in more detail is we actually have different power modes that it does graceful degradation as it starts to run out. But power's not been very much of an issue because we do have solar recharge even in these difficult places, or wind gives us a lot of power. Water gives us probably even more. We are also very, very smart about power, that we typically are powering the sensors. So we're only powering them on when we need to. And providing power. That way, many of the sensors out there aren't really designed for field deployment. So we're not having to have large banks of solar panels. You saw how large the solar panels in some of ours, 10-watt panels. Sometimes if we really need it, 20-watt panels. So usually we've got more than enough. And if something were to happen, like our device is about 80% battery. If something were to happen where we have a lot of cloudy days or a sensor that sucks a lot of power, it does do a smart thing as it's starting to run out of power. It turns off sampling, tries to preserve the network, and does the sort of things that you'd expect. So it hasn't been that big of an issue. Mike.
Tell us about some of the tools that you've developed for basically creating new data from, say, data points. Do you have any geospatial hooks that apply models to point data to create maps?
Yeah, so one of the things you realize is that all those researchers out in the field have a lot of Excel spreadsheets and a lot of data that are sitting there. So you have the ability to upload data from within the portal directly into the system. And that's not just KML, KMZ, and ArcGIS data. It's even Excel spreadsheets. You can upload and you define what the layers are, and then it will put them out as points. It actually, behind the scenes, converts it to KML. You've got the ability also, and I'll mess up my data here, but you've got the ability to create new points. So there are a couple other things on here that I didn't show. But for example, I can do an annotation. Here, let's mark there. That is Point Arena Air Station. Add it. And I'm going to put it, I'll just put it up with the root for right now. OK, so I just added another point to the database. So you have the ability to add points on the fly as they're going. You have the ability to upload other data. You also have the ability to take data that's even coming in from sensors and apply a function to it, either to mark it as bad or also convert it. Like, oh my goodness, I thought that sensor was reporting in Fahrenheit, but it's really Celsius. OK, and you can automatically convert its data. So all the data that's coming in gets run through that filter.
Well, I guess what I'm leading to are analytic tools that allow you to take data that's sparse and spread it across a landscape, apply a model that might include terrain variables or other simple functions to generate a unique data layer that's a map, rather than just adding collections of new things.
Yep. So we've done that on a number of projects, and that's actually what we're working with Chris and the folks to do to some degree also. One example is we work with Los Alamos to use Epicast and Episim, which is supercomputer-based simulations of infectious disease spread, where we could pump them raw layers from our server. They can compute, do what they do, and come back with a cooked layer, basically, that then gets put onto the system. So we're wanting to do the same thing with like CASA and the other climate models and carbon models out there. We've made the system very, very easy to do that. So you can actually define an agent that takes whatever layers from our system or whatever data from our system, sends it to your server or provides a web service to you, and then your server provides back another layer, and it pops up in there. So the system's really open to do that. What I'd like to do over time is to have the CASA model integrated. So as a researcher, you can come on and say, oh, somebody already has that module. I'll just use that, and then I want this new layer from it. But right now, we kind of work with people on a one-by-one basis because usually they've got a simulation that's in MATLAB or something, and we need to help convert it and get it up and online with them. So the answer is, once we've integrated all the data, now we're at the stage where we're looking at simulation modeling, either using our computers in the cloud. That's why I mentioned the cloud computing. What I want to be able to do is to offer like a researcher like you, OK, we've got this CASA model, and we can do it on 1,000 processors behind the scenes in an hour, and provide it to you very easily. And you don't have to pay for 1,000 processors that are going to sit idle 99% of the time. You can just use this other model and spread it over somebody else's computers to do that. So that's where I'd like to go.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for a great talk.
Thanks to everybody. All right, thanks. So if you have any questions, be happy to chat afterwards.